Howdy
Hi.
doody.
Welcome back to your daily dose. Today, I thought we'd talk about, do a little bit of show and tell regarding magical tools. I don't know, do you use tools? Do you have a lot of tools? Do you have an athame? Do you have a cauldron that you use?
Do you have to use tools?
You don't. You don't have to use a tool to be a magician or practice witchcraft. A lot of witches I know don't use a lot of tools other than more symbolic types of things. But I'll show you some of that stuff. So yeah.
So what are tools for?
I don't know. What are tools for? For me, oh, that door is open. The door.
Oh.
That's all right. It's easier for me to get to it, yeah?
Creaked open. Yeah. We'll shut it. In case any of the rugrats try to come out. Lock it!
There we go. They're in our room.
Oh, that brightens up the picture a little bit too.
Yeah. Good times. So, when it comes to tools, we have to use them within our Golden Dawn tradition.
Do we?
There are some required implements, yes.
Are there?
Yes.
I disagree.
He disagrees. Well, weren't you going to show your elemental tools?
I am.
When you get to a certain stage, there are required implements.
Are there?
Yes. You won't tell me otherwise. There are required implements, at least in our tradition, that we have to make and use.
For a while.
For a while, yes. But then you should be able to
Yes, that's what I was
do
getting at.
anything without a single tool, without...
Well, and we use the word tool because, I mean, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some work today. For example, I was tightening our doorknob. I could do that with my thumbnail and turn the screw. I'd probably break my thumbnail.
Or a
and
butter knife.
Stuff. No, that's a tool.
But it's not the particular tool.
It's not the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
So I can do it with my fingers. I can do it with my thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can use a wrong tool for the job, like a butter knife, and tighten it. Or I can get the right tool for the job and use a screwdriver, and it makes it a whole lot easier. And I think that's what magical tools do for us, particularly in magical systems that tend to lean heavily towards the symbolic. We use tools because they symbolize a particular energy or purpose or what have you. And so when you pick that tool up, the idea is when you pick a tool up and you use it for the same thing over and over and over again, once you've done that enough times, when you pick that tool up, you no longer have to focus and think about trying to channel that energy. That energy channels itself. It's become a natural reaction just because you've adapted to working it that way. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, once you know what that energy feels like, the idea is you don't need the tools.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, in the Golden Dawn, we use a lot of tools.
We do.
Make no mistake. In both the First Order and the Second Order, there's all kinds of tools in both of them. But they are there to train you to recognize and channel certain energies. And then once you've gotten really good at that, if you don't want to use the tool, you shouldn't have to.
Right.
That being said, I probably can't see myself doing very many Golden Dawn rituals without my Lotus Wand, because it is my Swiss Army knife, my multi-tool in my whole kit. I can do pretty much anything I want with it.
A wand.
Mm-hmm.
A wand. Do you use a wand? Have a whole bunch of wands here. These are my wands. These are Sean's wands. Yeah, but there's also other types of wands. But some people may call them a staff.
Indeed.
So we got a Lotus Wand over here that we can show you.
Well,
that's kind of...
So let's talk about these. These are your prototypical Harry Potter wands. Got a few of them. Do
Made
I
with
use
cholla
these
cactus.
for magical work? I have used one of them for magical work. I've used this one. I really like this one. It has a really good energy on it.
Yeah.
And I have used it for some magical work before.
I don't typically use wands outside of my Golden Dawn practice. But even then, the wand is very different than something like this. I also...
Well, before we get to the Lotus Wand, let's go with an outer order tool, a first order tool. We have it's called the Outer Wand.
Order wand. Yeah, Outer Wand.
It is a non-traditional tool. It wasn't used in the original Order of the Golden Dawn. The Ciceros sort of popularized this one. This one I made years and years ago. It's been beat up and used all kinds of ways, so it may not look the greatest. But the idea is you use the white end to invoke and the black end to banish. And when you see the Lotus Wand that we have for you to see, you'll notice that the top part of the Lotus Wand is white and the bottom part is black. So basically what they did was took the concept of using the Lotus Wand, invoking and banishing parts, and just made it into a single small wand. Now, one thing about this wand being very basic and just having an invoking side and a banishing side, I find this to be a great little multi-tool as well.
We use that for everything.
we can take, if we're missing a tool, because either we haven't built a particular tool yet, or when we do our magical work, you'll see our little cart here in a minute. When we go out in the woods, we have a little cart we load up with everything we'll need for that ritual. Maybe we've hiked a mile in and we forgot something. We can substitute with this. It's just a great little multi-tool. So.
Right. Or in lieu of a sword, if you don't have a sword to use, for example, you can use that. So we do use this quite a lot.
Yep.
I've never used any of these in any kind of magical practice or
and this one.
work.
This is one I made, and it is currently for sale on the Yom's website.
Catch.
Woo!
Ninja.
It's actually a fairly large one. I'll show you compared to this one. I think it's about 23 inches overall length. I'm calling this a fire wand. It's not a traditional Golden Dawn fire wand, but it's a fire wand because the handle is made from Holla cactus, which was ethically harvested by us in the Sonoran Desert. The end of it, and this one has the same kind of handle. The end of it was
Cholla.
Well, this was a cholla cactus.
Mm-hmm.
This was a inside rib of a saguaro cactus that I whittled down and formed and put the two together. So, calling this a fire wand because it's made from two cacti out in the desert, a Holla cactus and a saguaro cactus. So,
yeah. One thing that I do use quite a bit of.
This one's cool. I don't remember where we got this, do you?
I don't.
This is really cool. It's got a Holla Cactus handle. Not sure what the... Huh? Choy.
I do use a lot of snake skin. Yeah, but that's really cool. I dig it. And sometimes I just like to have... when we did the whole RV plan, we had to minimize a lot of things. And when it comes to just magical stuff, I just like having magical stuff. I don't really.
Most of our RV is packed with magical stuff.
That's pretty much what we have.
That was our, we brought our clothes and our magical stuff and our books and homeschooling stuff, and that was about it.
Yeah, and craft stuff, things to make
stuff.
And create, and yeah. We've got pretty much every kind of paint you could possibly need for any kind of tool that we're making, which is coming in really handy with us being isolated out here. We've been out here for a couple weeks now, just out in the desert. I did go to Mexico yesterday, trying to not go out as much as we possibly can, but we desperately needed some medications yesterday, so we did that. And just one of us went to, again, lessen any spread. But back to magical things. You can use something like a selenite wand. Again, which is just something that we have. I don't know. Have you ever used it for magical work?
I have not used that one. I've used other smaller selenite pieces for like Reiki work.
The other thing we brought with us is an abundance of plants. This is my littlest mandrake. He's kind of digging it, and I got some other little cuttings and things that are just kind of going. My littlest mandrake. So I use plants quite a bit in all of my spiritual and magical work. Quite a bit. This is a bone knife. I've not used this.
Bone athame as a
Bone
word.
athame. I've not used this either. I tend to use swords more than athames. The asymmetry of this doesn't suit me personally for using it for any kind of magical work. So yeah, but I like it. Again, just having magical stuff. I don't know, maybe I'm a hoarder when it comes to that kind of thing. But
We're magical hoarders.
magical hoarders.
That fits.
That'd be a good show. What do you hoard?
Magical hoarding.
Speaking of wands.
So this is not quite a lotus wand because it doesn't have the head on it, the tip. And I'm doing
work in progress.
I'm doing a little work on it. I'm sanding down a few of the colors and redoing them. But this is a type of a Golden Dawn lotus wand. You can see the white end for general spiritual invoking, the black end for banishing, and the colors in between are the 12 colors of the zodiac. So if you're doing zodiacal magic, you can grab it by the color. If you're doing planetary magic, you use the color of the planet that you're working with. And if you're doing elemental magic, you grab the color of the carob of the element that you're working with. So very good multiple purpose tool. You can do pretty much anything with it. What this is missing, which unfortunately we can't show you because our two lotus wands of ours are consecrated and we don't show them. The head has a flower on it that looks like a lotus flower, and it's usually cut out of copper or tin, and it's cut into the shape of a lotus flower. There's actually 4 pieces to it. There's the outer petals, and then the inner ones get smaller as they go, and they're bent up, and you cut them out and put them on there, and that's why it's a lotus wand, because it has a lotus flower on the end. This one doesn't have that yet, but
I wanted to show you guys one that we have in storage back in Denver. That's pretty cool, but maybe we'll have to show that to you when we get there.
yeah.
Yeah. Another type of wand that we made and constructed is not any traditional wand used in our magical work, but it's something that we threw together, and it's
I didn't throw it together.
It's coming very handy. Yeah. So that's a cool one too. And this is also a wand. So that kind of stuff.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
You can grab we have the staffs on the wall.
Oh yeah, we have our staffs. Our stangs, as it were. It's a little bit more planetary magic.
So if you're familiar with the Golden Dawn, you may have heard of the Vault of the Adepti. It's a 7-sided chamber that the inductions into the Second Order take place in. And each wall, each of the 7 walls is painted in a different shading of color, all based off the same base paintwork. So this is one I did years ago. I'm actually in the process of painting new ones right now. I'm going to do all 7. Isn't it beautiful? I'm going to actually do all 7 on canvas boards. But this is the base color. None of the walls actually look like this. This is the base wall, and then each one, every single square and flashing color on all of these is tinted with. So, for example, hey Mark, if we were talking about the Mars wall, which is red, you would take, say, this blue square, and you would actually tint that blue with a bit of red. The percentage varies. There's a lot of opinions out there what to use. I think
that's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Making vault walls.
Let's say use 10%. So you'd use 90% of the blue and 10% of the red to come up with the shade that comes off of that. And then the flashing color, and the flashing color for red is
green.
Green. So you take the symbol and the color that it's supposed to be, and you tint it with 10% of the flashing color. So you end up with flashing colors are really cool.
And then
these colors,
yeah.
This kind of paint really isn't designed to flash real well. This Venus square flashes a little bit. The Aries one a little bit.
The Aries flashes.
When we say flashing colors, they're the exact opposite colors on a color wheel and on the color spectrum. And when you stare at it, it has this effect of looking like it wobbles. Mm-hmm. So when you have an entire wall that's lots of flashing colors, and then 7 of those, and you're inside of it, it's crazy.
It's awesome.
So anyway, that's a small version of a Golden Dawn vault wall. Again, not tinted, it's just the base colors. And I'm working on new ones of that. That's one I did literally probably
15 years ago.
15 years ago. So, what else we got? Oh, here's my staff. Don't use this for a whole lot of magical work, although I am starting to a little bit. This was purchased. I did not make this one, but it's a beautiful piece. They did some spiral work down below, and it's got a really nice leather worked handle, and it has a light on the end, which is cool. It's one of those little garden lights, and it's solar, and so it lights up when it gets dark out. But the cool thing is that it pops right out, and there's actually a chamber there that you can put. I've got several different stone crystals that slide into there, and I can use those. Yep.
I use a lot of herbs again in my work, so things like this would be really cool to put herbs inside.
All right.
We are in an RV, guys. Now, you don't use that one a whole lot.
I'm working on it. I'm going to.
I do use mine.
Here we go.
Yeah, buddy. Put that back in there. If I can get them all. Which was gifted to me by our dear friend Kenny.
I don't know if he's on. Are you on, Ken?
Hi. So this is something that I use quite a bit in my witchcraft work. Yeah. It's a pretty cool one. Speaking of bones and antlers, that is also something that I use quite a bit of in my witchcraft work. He's been bludgeoned, so.
He stinks.
Could be my blood, who knows? Anyway. I'm not sure he would smell good. It's a goat head.
We also have, this is a really cool tool.
A cool tool.
We've used this in drum circles before.
Quite a bit.
Has a deer bone handle, and these are the hooves of...
what is it? I forget.
Of deer.
Is it deer?
Yeah, they're deer hooves. And... so we
also
use
very
that
cool for
in
inducing
drum
trance
circles.
states.
Yep.
Something I do use a lot of are feathers. I use feathers quite a bit, even in my bone readings, especially my bone readings. What I do with my feathers when I read is I have 2 pillars, and I put them on either side, and depending on what's going on with the question and the person I'm reading for, it can either lend towards severity or...
Is that the middle pillar?
This is actually what I read with. I don't touch the bones after they're thrown. So yeah, snakeskin, another big thing that I use quite a bit of. We do use this quite a bit. It is also antler. Sorry.
It's like 3 times she's hit me in the head today.
Sorry about that. I'll do it again too. But yes, we do use this quite a bit. We use it for smudging. Send help.
I was doing SOS.
Yeah. This is a cool one too.
Gonna show our stolies.
Yeah, those are nice.
So we, of course, in the Golden Dawn, we always wear robes.
Mm-hmm.
Black robes for the First Order, white robes for the Second Order. Here's the thing. We do a lot of our work outside now and in the middle of the forests and deserts, and white robes are not conducive to that.
No. Ken! Cool.
Hey, Ken!
What kind of feathers? Feathers have been a common theme today.
Yeah.
My brother found, he's also in an RV.
A giant feather.
A giant feather was hidden above his door somehow in his RV. Yeah. He asked me what magical significance is that, so helping him with that. So maybe if you want to let us know what kind of feathers they are, maybe I can help you come up with an idea, possibly. But back to the robes.
Yeah, so we wear robes when we do temple and when we do ritual work, but
our white
and
robes,
sometimes it's necessary. I mean, if I'm consecrating a talisman, for example, that's a real official ceremony. I really feel like even in the middle of a forest or the desert, I would probably don my white robe for that.
And it is a white towel robe.
Yep.
So if you know what that is.
Something that's, if we're doing another ritual that's a little more, not casual, but a little more...
Not as intensive.
Intensive. Or, we
little bit lighter.
Need to have it. We wear instead of wearing our full robes, we wear our stolies. Mm-hmm. We had these custom made by Kathy at Azoth Art. She is amazing.
Fantastic.
And so we have an image of the sun. And then on one side we have the active elements of fire and water. And then on the other side we have the hexagram symbolizing the Second Order and the elements of water and earth, the passive elements. So we wear these stolies a lot of times when we do our work outside. It's a lot easier than putting on a full robe, and still gives us a symbolic piece of attire to wear when we go outside to do our magic work.
Haven't used it as much being out here where we are currently in the desert, just because it's very, very hot and very dusty. So we do want to treat that, again, with the reverence that it deserves.
Let's see.
What else we got? We got stuff everywhere. Oh, this is very cool.
I use this in
what is it?
Various kinds of Kabbalistic magic. And
what does it mean?
It is called a shofar. It is a ram's horn. So when you're doing a Kabbalistic ritual and you want to get some attention,
do it.
It's a ram's horn. I will. So like Joshua in the Battle of Jericho, they blew the ram's horn 7 times every 7 minutes and blah 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 every 7 hours, and the walls fell down. So it's pretty cool horn. Not sure how this is going to translate sound wise over a recording. But it does sound pretty cool. I don't know how well I'll do this on the first try, so. Not very good.
Well.
So, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Speaking of magical things and attire.
Rings.
Random rings.
A towel ring.
I wear my serpent ring daily. My double serpents. Symbolic for me with my witchcraft work.
This is another tool as a ceremonial magician. I know the letters are backwards.
I told him not to use this computer.
Tomes like this are what we read in and delve into when putting rituals together. And then this is a very important tool as a ceremonial magician as well. This is a journal. And
I don't know how many journals you guys have, but I have about 4 different journals, all for different purposes.
So this is my alchemy journal. I have, don't want stuff to blow away here in the wind. I write my alchemical recipes in here, charts of ingredients, quantities, what it's used for, alchemical magical rituals that I do, things like that. Those are all kept in here. I have, for example, I have a journal for my Golden Dawn specific work. I have my alchemy journal. I have my Enochian journal that I keep all of my Enochian practices in.
Yeah. Dream journals.
And I have a Kabbalistic journal for all my Kabbalistic magic. So
Plan
that way,
journals,
there's
witchcraft journals.
2 schools of thought on that, right? You can have one journal that you just do everything and it's all in chronological order. Or you can keep a journal for different separate things. I chose to do it for different separate things. It's easier for me to go back and find something if I can limit it down to one particular topic rather than having to flip through huge
I have
volumes.
random plants in my journals. But again, it's all pretty specific to what I was doing that day, what I learned regarding that plant. This is witchcraft specific. Speaking of journals or things that you keep your rituals in, this is a cool little book that is very well loved. That we keep
Been used a little
bit, kind of like a pocket dictionary of things, how to do different rituals. So for example, this is, can't read it because it's backwards, the Rose Cross ritual. But yeah, this is full of the Hebrew alphabet, so anything just that we might need on the fly. Haven't used it in a while, but all this is in here now. But when I was first getting started, I used to keep stuff like this around. This was Sean's, but yeah, just kind of things to keep in your pocket when you need it. Here we go. Elemental tools.
This is my Geomancy Box. If you're not familiar with Geomancy, we'll probably be doing a daily dose on it at some point.
Yeah.
Geomancy is a form of earth divination. It's you poke holes in the ground.
Or
this box was
cast
originally
box.
I made this a long time ago, probably 20 years ago.
Earth box.
And I actually used to keep dirt in this box, and I would use the wands to poke holes in the dirt.
Who does that?
That you divine by. I do.
I know, but I mean, nobody other than a magician would do something like that,
right.
which is awesome.
That's a
Divining.
Geomancy divination wand, colored in the colors of Malkut, citrine,
Earth.
olive, russet, and black. So you use this to poke the holes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you count up the
Frantically poking
holes
holes.
and come up with sigils based on the numbers and things like that. I don't use it. I don't keep dirt in it now. I use this. I do a lot of geomancy with coins now instead of dirt.
Yeah.
Or I go outside and I poke this in the actual dirt in the ground, and I use the box. It's a storage for a bunch of my other divination stuff. But if I want to use the box, I'll take everything out of it and I'll actually throw the coins in the box. Because this has been used a lot by me for geomantic divination. So that's my Geomancy Box.
Speaking of tools, cards, tarot cards. I didn't even grab any tarot cards out. Or...
I got you.
You got me? I'm on mine.
See? So, here we go. Here is my tarot deck that I use. And inside the baggie is my tarot journal. So this is my journal that I keep records of all of my readings in. And I just keep that. It's small enough I can keep it in the bag with my cards. I write on my cards. I know.
I do too. At least that deck.
I write the Golden Dawn symbols for this particular deck, and I also work them into the artwork. So
And it's also really helpful if you do any tarot uno. What do we call that? What is it called?
Crazy Eights.
Crazy Eights. I've got my Lenormand deck, which I love and use quite a bit. So this is something that I do. I don't read these professionally, but I do it for me. What else we got? Oh, speaking of different types of natural things,
There you go.
I use a lot of mock-ins in my work. This is my happy male mock-in.
I'd show you my golem, but he's tearing up Prague right now.
I don't know if anybody else would laugh at that kind of joke.
Kabbalistic humor, what are you going to do?
And corn dollies. Things like this I use quite a bit. I don't know where my John Barleycorn is, but he's also got a big penis and I use him a lot. I use the same doll.
Use him a lot for magical work.
Yes,
Might wanna,
magical work.
after identifying him as having a big penis, you might want to specify. I use him a lot.
Also things like this, which a lot of things just have random blood on it in our house, so something to be mindful of. What else you got?
So I have one more that I will show, and most of the time I would never show consecrated tools. The only reason I'm showing these is because I've actually created a new set that is what I actually use in my work now. So
I can show.
these have kind of been deconsecrated, and I don't really use them anymore. But these are my Golden Dawn elemental tools. I have to make sure I cover my mottos here. So this is my Earth Pentacle. And my Air Dagger. And my... Yep. My water cup. And this one might be tricky. And my fire wand. So those are my elemental tools that
More random bones.
I made those a while ago as well. And I made a nice little case with foam cutouts to keep them safe in. But those are my old ones.
I use snakeskin a lot in my work.
I'd actually like to talk about why I made new tools.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time making these.
By the book.
In our order, you have the option of making the elemental tools as you go through the elemental grades. So when you're in the earth grade, you can make your earth pentacle. When you're in the air grade, your air dagger, and so forth. But you don't consecrate them, paint them, and consecrate them until the appropriate time. So I spent a lot of time in each grade. I spent hours and hours, and on most of these, with the exception of the air dagger, these were like third and fourth tries and copies because I wouldn't be happy with how something went. It was easier to start over than to try to redo it. So they took me a lot of time. They were done essentially, as Stormham said, by the book. And when we say by the book, there's diagrams and things of how they're supposed to look, and I tried to match that exactly. I didn't concern myself with what they were made from.
We'll get to that.
Okay. Hang on, Jamie. I wasn't concerned about what they were made from, material-wise. I just was focused on... And in the Golden Dawn, we use color a lot. So it's really the color that matters more than what it's made from, typically. But I found myself not connecting with them real well. So instead of using... What I've done recently is made a new set of tools. I've made them out of things that actually meant something to me, and they may not be quite as exact as the ones that I made myself. Well, I made the new ones too, but the ones I constructed by the book. And the new ones resonate with me much more because there's more of a meaning behind it. There's more of
a connection, a closer connection.
Yep.
When I was making my tools, I decided to go a different route, and I made earth pentacles and everything, again, by the book. I also wasn't feeling it, so I decided to get birch bark rounds, and I'm very closely connected to the birch, and so now that's something that again resonates with me on a deeper spiritual level than it would otherwise. So taking some extra care and thought into what each thing is made of, where it came from, how it was sourced, kind of like I do with each bone piece in my bone bag, for example.
So
another unfinished thing we can show.
Considering that I'm in a position to dictate that, we made that change in our order, and we encourage everybody when they make their tools to make them out of something that they have a connection with that means something more so than being exact. Where we don't do that is with the Lotus Wand. We want the Lotus Wand to be exact because it has very specific purposes and intents, but the elemental tools, being elemental tools, they come from the world of the elements, the world that we live in. Mm-hmm. So you've got to have a connection with those elements and those things that represent the elements to you for you to have that real solid connection.
Right.
So we give our members the option of doing them by the book if they choose, or using something that's maybe not as exact, and they have much more leeway in what they create them from and how they look.
Yeah, so my earth pentacle isn't exactly symmetrical because I found the most
round of birch bark.
I found the most symmetrical one I could find, and
it's pretty round though.
It is, yeah. There's one little dip at the top, but yeah. So that's something that again just speaks to me more. Back to Jamie's question regarding snakeskin. I use it quite a bit in charms, mojo bags. You could do it for a few different purposes.
In your bone bag?
In my bone bag. And depending on where it lands in a reading, if it comes out at all, sometimes it doesn't, which I find interesting. It only does with certain people, but how it slithers through the rest of the reading is important to the question. Another thing that I use it for, again, I'm very closely connected to serpents and serpentine energy and the snake itself. So that's something that I use quite a bit. Again, in things like bags, I use it for dreaming work, for trance work, or what we call shimmering. I use quite a bit to kind of just hold. Along with my tobacco bag, I carry a little bit of snakeskin with me, and I have certain jewelry and things that I wear as well. So yeah, that's what I use snakeskin for. I used it in a lot of mojo bags when we had the shop, and somebody either needed a little bit of support or knowledge, or even needed to be more serpentine in a way. So yeah, I would add that in there depending on the client. Cool stuff. I don't know if we have.
What about hats?
Hats. We have a lot of hats. Or nemesis, arch nemesis. A nemesis. We can't show a nemesis, can we?
We can.
Yeah.
It's like the Egyptian headdress.
But what is a nemesis for?
It creates an astral barrier between yourself and some of the energies and entities that you work with.
There's specifically a tail down the back to protect your spine and your center from other predatory energies. What about things that are simply symbolic?
Simply symbolic? Simply symbolic?
Simply symbolic. Got to play a little bit of musical chairs here.
Yep.
But yeah, something like this we can use to hake us with if we want to. But yeah, it's not exactly red.
You can scooch over.
Yeah. All right, I'll sit here now. Yeah, you can see we got some marshmallows for s'mores that we had the other day. Hats. Lots and lots of hats. Dig it.
That's mine.
This is also yours.
Indeed.
You know what's funny? We get a lot of this stuff at the Renaissance fairs and festivals.
Yeah, this was from a hat maker at the Colorado Renaissance Fair, and it's...
Your staff?
I mean, it's like...
This?
Leather and solidly constructed.
I know. I want to steal it from him. I wear it sometimes.
You do. That is mine.
And if y'all have seen
She has a 10-gallon
have you seen my huge hat? It's all the way stuffed in the closet. I don't feel like getting it out right now.
That's like the little Harry Potter hats. And then I can't show you our ones that are in use because A, they're in use, and B, they're actually tacked down so that they don't move when we move the RV. But we have things like, why won't that stay in place? Spirit vessels. So this is basically an olive oil lamp. So I have another one that's almost just like this. It's a little bit bigger. And where the end is, it actually has a little cup for a spout. And what we did with that one is...
put a genie in it.
A gin.
Well, yeah.
It's my salamander gin familiar. And what I did was I actually filled it with olive oil and put a wick in it, and I lit it, and I let it burn for a period of time. And then did a summoning and created a bond with an entity, and that's his resting place. So I have one for each element, but that's another example of a fire one that that's not in use.
I have a whole altar, my witchcraft work, and other tools that you might use would be like a triangle, a pipe. Well, actually, let me see. So, I do use smoke quite a bit in my daily work and in my daily rituals as offerings, as a form of offering. So, yeah, I think pretty much everything in our house is some form of magical thing. But yeah, we got Bob.
Two other things to show. One, this is a new project that I'm getting ready to get started on. So I do a lot of Kabbalistic magic, and the Kabbalah has roots in Judaism. So there's a lot of symbology from the Old Testament and things. We could talk about our coronavirus charm thing.
Yeah, well, and I actually did just post about that today.
So I'll give you an example. A segulo is it's sort of a Kabbalistic charm, if you want to call it that. So what we did for symbolism, and of course we're not Jewish, so we're not trying to culturally appropriate.
Right.
But I do practice Kabbalistic magic, and as such, it's a part of that system. So basically, what we did was used the instance from the Old Testament where Jehovah sent the plagues to Egypt to try to let the force the Pharaoh to release the Israelites.
Let my people go.
Whether you believe true story or not aside, it's a symbol, right? It's symbolic. And the very last plague that was sent was the death of the firstborn. And it wasn't only firstborn people, it was the firstborn of all their cattle and everything. So they lost massive amounts of their herds. And of course, supposedly they lost the firstborn child of everybody, including the Pharaoh lost his firstborn. And that's what Passover is, right? The Jewish celebration of Passover was they were instructed to, every family was to slaughter a lamb and to eat it for dinner and then burn the remnants to nothing and use some of the blood of that lamb to paint over their door, and the angel of the apocalypse
of death
would pass over
that house. So
we use that symbology as protection from coronavirus.
Yep. We didn't slaughter a lamb, but
we did not slaughter a lamb,
but we take the nature of sacrifice very seriously.
Yep. So we bought meat and we cooked it, and we took the blood from it before it was cooked and stored it, And once we ate it, we burned all the remnants, including the bones,
the gristle, all
nothing,
of it to nothing
in the
outside.
fire. We have a fire pit outside. And then we took that blood and we painted it over our door jamb. And
this was a family ritual.
Did it with our kids. And then I wrote out in Hebrew the verse from the Bible that gave that instruction, and wrote that out, and it stated that they would be protected. And once that was all written out in Hebrew, I put all of our names
on it,
as well as my other kids' and grandchild's name that don't live with us, to protect them as well.
My brother.
That was rolled up and put in a mezuzah that is on our door. So we did. That was our way of offering to our spirits, and
all of this again
is
a family affair. Our children are always doing ritual with us. It's part of their daily life. Again, like I mentioned my brother earlier, it bleeds into our whole family, and everybody just does magic, whether they know it or not.
So, with Kabbalistic magic, one of the things I have always wanted is the jawbone of an ass.
Yes.
Probably because I'm a Leo.
We found some.
So, talking about the story of Samson, the story was in one of the wars that was going on, the Philistines attacked, and he had no weapons. He didn't have a sword. The Philistines are upon you.
Sorry.
Old Bible school references from both of us. So he picked up the only thing he could find on the ground, which was the jawbone of an ass, and he slaughtered 1,000?
Yeah, I
think like 1,000 Philistines with this jawbone of an ass. So I've always wanted one because I thought it would be
protection.
I thought it would be a great magical tool.
Yeah.
I mean, use it almost like a wand. Because that's,
if you need to
from a Kabbalistic and Hebrew standpoint, that's a
predatory
powerful
or negative
image.
Entities or energies.
So we were in Quartzsite, Arizona, at an RV show there, and Quartzsite is a really interesting town. This is a little town that is completely made up of either RVers and most of the people live in an RV in the flea market. So when you're walking down the flea market, it's open every day, all day. And as you walk through the flea market, it's basically a whole bunch of recreational vehicles that people live in, and their flea market is out in front of it.
Crystal and stone
everywhere.
shops,
crystals,
gem shops,
stones, everything.
Bones.
It's
everywhere.
like a giant flea
I
market.
was going nuts over the bones.
So while we were there, we got the jawbone of an ass. Two of them. So I'm going to be. I'm going to try to stain it with a red like wood stain, because it's a very fiery weapon, I think. So it's going to try. One of them I'm probably going to stain red, and one of them. That's a lot of blood. One of them I might just leave plain, and then I'm going to paint.
I have access to a lot of blood regularly.
I'll paint some Hebrew spells and things along it. So, yeah, that's my jawbone of an ass. I've been wanting one of these for years.
Speaking of blood,
finally found one.
I use blood in everything I do, usually, outside of my Golden Dawn work.
Well,
there are some times that I do that too. Well, but
Rudolf Steiner, who was a Rosicrucian scholar and leader, wrote a book called The Significance of Blood in the Occult. So
we homeschool our children in a Steiner method. And this is Bob.
We have Bob's bottom jaw. Bob's bottom jaw was actually broken when we got it. Well, it had been broken before and somebody glued it together. It came apart again and we haven't fixed it yet. So we got to fix his bottom jaw. It's with him in his resting place though. So we have Bob's bottom jaw.
Our ancestor altar, which is over there.
So it's a human skull. We've posted it to some skull groups, and the general consensus seems to be that Bob is actually an Asian female.
She's got a lot of contusions on her head.
She does. It makes us wonder how old she is.
Yeah.
Because she was abused. She's got lots of pre-mortem contusions and breaks. I mean, she's got a broken nose. a broken nose that actually healed right here. And the really interesting thing to me is that, and her bottom jaw is the same, she still has a majority of her teeth, no dental work. There's no cavity fillings. She had her wisdom teeth. So that tells me that she was probably in an era pre-dental, which makes her pretty old. But our goal with Bob, we still call her Bob because we haven't named it.
Yeah. Bob.
Our goal with Bob is at some point we will...
he now has a name and it's Bob.
Oh, Bob for now.
Yeah.
We'll be summoning...
I've been calling her Bob for a while.
We'll be summoning a spirit, and it will be a spirit vessel for a spirit. Probably one that is previously incarnated, simply because human spirits, once they leave, tend to be more comfortable inside their own head.
Yeah. Or inside a head.
A head.
A human head.
So I don't know.
So as opposed to blocking or locking a spirit into a vessel, like a djinn, like we showed you earlier, this will be the vessel. And
typically, we haven't done anything to this. We haven't bleached it. We haven't carved anything or painted anything on it, because we will wait for the spirit to dictate to us what they would like us to do to it. So. And
if you know the Bob reference, good on you.
If you know Bob, yeah, good on you.
So yeah, we have a ton of magical stuff just everywhere. Oh, we forgot our cart.
Oh yeah.
This is our cart that we cart everything around in. Pillars, magical pillars that are easy. We need to paint them.
Repaint.
Upon these will be painted hieroglyphics.
Well, they need touched. They just need
touched up anyway. But we use these. We carry these out when we go do outdoor ritual work. We got Enochian tablets.
I know, they're backwards. Have all the Enochian tablets for our Enochian work. So yeah, just to kind of...
If you use a triangle and a circle, another magical tool.
Goetic work, yep.
Goetic work.
We left one of those in storage.
Well, you can also within witchcraft.
Yeah. So again, you know, it was kind of a show and tell day. We showed you guys a lot of what we have and what we use. It wasn't to brag or
I didn't even think about
just
that.
show you, look at what we have. It was really more to talk about tools, what purpose they serve, and that, I mean, I've been doing magical work. How diverse
they can be.
I've been doing magical work for 25 years. Do I have to use tools? No, but I find they are still conducive to me channeling certain energies. I can give you a time I didn't use a tool for something that was fairly serious and that came out amazing. We should probably do a whole other show
daily
on
dose
this.
On that, yeah.
While we were traveling months ago, we lost one of our cats. Actually, to be honest, we left one of our cats behind at a rest stop. And we drove
Las Cruces, New Mexico.
3 hours towards our next destination before we realized
we were in Tucson.
The cat was missing.
Yeah, something was telling me we need to check on the cats. So we hadn't even unhitched. We just pulled into a fill-up station and... Gas station. Yeah.
Well, we pulled over to have lunch, too.
Right.
We pulled over, we came back. So we have a fifth wheel, right? So we have a truck that pulls the fifth wheel. We pulled over in the rest stop to come back into the RV to make a quick lunch because we still had another couple hours of driving to do that day. Discovered, and Julie was getting this urge to check on the cats. We discovered we were missing one.
Nightshade was gone, and we were in Tucson. We had left her in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
And the place we left her literally was a rest stop.
Off the highway.
Off a freeway, like a rest stop. And while we were driving back, I was doing some very heavy astral magical work with some of my spirit guides and guardians to guard over our cat. By the time we got back there, 6 hours plus later, probably more like 7. Probably more like 7. We got there.
That was on a Zoom.
Yeah, that was a Zoom.
Sorry.
We got there, and we'll save it for a daily dose.
Yeah. I think that's all I got for now. Yeah, we didn't even bring up things like incense burners or
sensors, cups. Other
pentacles,
cups.
pentagrams that are just kind of everywhere. One I have up there.
Dreamcatcher wand over the kids' door.
That was gifted to me. There are dream catchers over every bed. There are also different stones and charms that we put in their beds as well. But, yeah.
So yeah, you know, I've been doing a lot of magic for a lot of years, a lot of different types as well. My primary path is Golden Dawn, but I do other things as well. And I still enjoy using tools. They still speak to me. And so I continue to use them in my work, but I don't have to if I feel that, or if circumstances dictate that I don't have time to set up a whole temple setting and go through, you know, a whole ritual for it. I've learned how to do that without it. But I do enjoy tools. They make my work magnified, and they make it better.
Yeah, but even if you, even if you don't have tools.
Forward. Psychic
readings. Yeah, it's backwards. Yeah, we can't see. I don't know why we use these.
Because Facebook.
Even if you don't have.
Facebook changed the whole live thing on the computer. It's totally different. I didn't want to mess with it.
Yeah. Even if you don't have a sword to do a labert, for example, you can just use your fingers.
That's what I use most of the time.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's enough show.
Thanks for being here. See you tomorrow.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Is that yummy?
It is.
We're still live. Just
I like bubbly water.